We are live.
I think it's
How
live.
exciting. So I'm Christina Hendricks, and I've been one of the facilitators for Teaching with WordPress. And here we also have Rie Namba, who's also one of the people helping out with WordPress. And maybe, JR, you can introduce yourself? Rie, you can introduce yourself too.
Hi, I'm Rie. Nice to meet you. I'm an educational resources developer, and mainly I've been working on the back end of the site. So I was making boxes on the join us pages, and I also set up the gravity forms for this website.
Yay.
Awesome. And I'm JR. I'm an instructional designer at the University of Alberta. I've been peripheral to the Teaching with WordPress, but I think it's got a lot of potential, and as an instructional designer I work with instructors and faculty, so hopefully if anyone's interested or I can kind of talk about open pedagogy, we might have some future opportunities.
Cool. Now, does University of Alberta have WordPress easily available for faculty and students?
I think so. There's an educational technology group based in the College of or Faculty of Education.
Mm-hmm.
And they're actually hosting a workshop in mid-July that's about, I think, Google Sites, WordPress, and one other technology. So I'll go check that out and connect with those guys over there.
Because one thing that's nice about UBC is that we have this, what's it called, UBC blogs and UBC CMS, which I don't know, Rie, what does CMS stand for?
It's Content Management System.
Content management system. So, I mean, they're already hosted there, and we have support, and so really you just have to sign up and you easily get a site for your course and all that. So I just don't know how many places have that available.
I'll put on my other hat here and go back from Alberta to Saskatchewan, and I know that the University of Saskatchewan also has a WordPress install, and that their teaching and learning center actually hosts what they call a TOOC, a totally open online course, and it's completely WordPress driven. So,
TOOC.
Yeah.
Why is it a TOOC rather than a OOC or a MOOC?
I'll send you they've got like a description web page about where I think the name came from. So
that's funny. Hi, Lucas.
Hey, how's it going? So sorry I'm late.
You're not too late. We just started. We're just doing like introductions and stuff, so maybe you can introduce yourself.
Great. So I'm Lucas Wright. I'm a learning technology specialist at CTLT, and I've had a chance to participate in some of the facilitation of this course, although Rie has done so much work building it and Christina's done so much work facilitating it. So yeah, glad to meet you all.
So there was one other person who said they might join, and then there was somebody who said they were going to watch, who I don't recognize, and I think speaks in Russian. So I don't know if that person's going to join or not. But I've also tweeted it out saying, join us now, for anybody who hasn't. But maybe, I don't know, maybe we could start with anything that you've learned from the course, whether you're a facilitator or not. Maybe I should start.
Yeah, you start.
So I think I did a blog post about this, but because of what Rie did on our site, I learned a ton. So I learned how to use that loop shortcode to get blog posts within a particular category to show up on part of my page. So I did that in one of my assignments, where I had students watch some videos, and then I had in the same page with the videos, and this was a page on WordPress, I also had a requirement that they contribute to a couple of discussions. And the way I did discussions was I had 2 blog posts that were categorized discussion, and then I asked them to comment on those. And what I was able to do with the shortcode that Rie had used for our site on our front page, where we put latest updates. So if you go to our front page at blogs.ubc.ca/teachwordpress, you can see that we have like a static page, but then we also have this dynamic set of blog posts that come up with announcements. And I did that with my page that had the videos, and then it said, please comment on these discussions. And I had the actual post from the discussion showing up on that page through using a shortcode. So that was something that I had never known how to do. And what I basically did is I just copied the shortcode that Rie had created, and I changed the category name. That's it. So that was my big, one of my big things that I managed to do in this course, learning from how we actually set up our site. So that was cool.
One of the things I stumbled on in the course was, can you hear me okay without headset, or should I grab my headset?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
It's clear.
One of the things I stumbled on a little bit was using the P2 theme.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'd never thought about it until I started experimenting in the course. I've used it before, PulsePress or P2 or a child theme. So I don't know if you're all familiar with P2, but it has kind of a front-end posting and chat functionality rather than having students go to the dashboard and post, like in a typical WordPress blog. Alan Levine does great stuff with Splots, which is a little bit similar, although he's actually hacking forms to do it, but it kind of takes away the idea that students have to go to the dashboard. I find when I'm running courses, sometimes such a little thing like having to go to the dashboard can really put people off. So I'm usually using comment boxes, but I switched over to P2, or it's actually a child theme of P2. And what I've been doing is creating one page that's using its chat functionality, so it has front-end posting, and then building all the course modules as other pages on the site. So I'm experimenting with that, and that's just based on, I guess, some of the feeling of experimentation in the course, which is neat to see how willing people are to kind of break, challenge, hack, do lots of different things with WordPress. And again, I'm not a coder, so it's just coming from the standpoint of just trying things out. So
Lucas,
that was
I was just wondering, do you know how to share your screen? Maybe you could show us that site?
Yes, I'm actually not really supposed to share this site, so.
Okay, sorry.
Yes,
Never mind.
I'm using
and this is public.
I've been told not to share publicly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I won't name any names, but.
Can you tell me what a child theme is? I don't know what a child theme is.
So
Yeah,
basically,
anyone else in the room, Claire? Rie?
so basically, child theme is like a, how do I say? It's like a sub theme. So there's one theme, for example, like the WordPress default 2415, that's the theme, and then like basically you can create a theme out of using this theme. So basically, you're creating a new template using the existing theme that it's have.
Oh, so you need to know how to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just do it.
So basically, it's like a sort of like building like a new website based on the other websites. So basically, like you're changing the code or you're changing the structure of it. So you're not creating everything by scratch, but you're basing it on theme. So when people usually create WordPress website by themselves, usually they base on what they start with is to base on the theme they have, and then they just build on it and learn how the code works in WordPress.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
And I'll try to share something in a couple minutes. I'm going to have to set it up, though. So I can try to share PulsePress, which is actually a child theme of P2 as well. But P2, the challenge with it is that you can't build pages. So you can only have the one front-end posting. I am curious about, oh, sorry, go ahead. Do you want to chat there?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that John Johnston, who's also in the course, said that there's a new version of P2 out, like just in the last couple of days. So I don't know if that does anything, you know, with pages, for example.
Okay.
I think it's called O2. It's like oxygen,
you
know, O2.
I'm a little torn whether to use just comment boxes or to use a theme like that. So in the site we're building, we're actually doing, this is for the graduate certificate program. We're using 3 approaches to communication. One is the comment boxes like you've used, Christina.
Mm-hmm.
The other is aggregating into the site like people do with Feed WordPress. But I'm using a plugin called InSync, which allows you to publish to different sites. And
What's
then
it
the
called again?
third, InSync, NSYNC like the band, but in small.
Okay.
So what that allows you to do is if you're on another UBC blog, you just go publish post to this blog, and you can publish up to a central blog. They're
Cool.
using it in Solder as an e-portfolio type blog. And then I'm also using the comment boxes. So we're kind of thinking there's 3 ways to communicate in the course. One is kind of aggregating portfolios. The other one is to comment on learning modules or kind of video modules. And the other way is to just have an open discussion area that we might use once a week, kind of as this open, almost back channel type discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Cool.
interesting to think of the different approaches to comments and what they might do.
Yeah. So JR, I know you before we went live, you said you were you just gotten a site for the first time in a while.
Yeah, it was
Domain.
the first domain I've had in a long time. Going through my undergrad, I ended up using Blogger and EduBlogs and a whole bunch of those other services. But I was mentioning that recently I signed up with Reclaim, and I, for the first time, actually had to comb through and pick my own WordPress theme. And then it was the first time that I've really had my hands that far into WordPress. So typically a WordPress site was normally had me listed as an administrator, and then, yeah, I might do a post or I might try to build a page. But it was the first time that I ever started dabbling with, I'll grab a portfolio plugin and start working with that and using shortcode and building bridges between things. So it's been an adventure. I think just like Lucas mentioned, it's a lot about just playing with it and seeing what you can do. And the last discussion we had, I think it really focused on, you can do all of these really high-powered fancy things where you aggregate blogs, but if you're just starting out, it's okay to just build that web page. Kind of like the ET MOOC page. It's something that kind of serves as a central meeting place, but then you can go out from there.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing with WordPress? Like, what's your goal?
Right now, just rebuilding my own e-portfolio and then going from there. It's because I do instructional design right now, I'm not teaching any courses, so it was just a way for me to get more familiar with the tool again. And if I'm talking with instructors or faculty members that might be interested in open pedagogy and using WordPress in their teaching, that then I have some expertise or some tools I can work with those instructors or faculty.
It's interesting that you say fun, because that's I also do learning design quite a bit, and I find I build in certain unnamed platforms, and I don't necessarily get a feeling of fun.
Yeah.
And when I'm showing people how to use these platforms, they don't always get this feeling of fun. But for me, I guess building on the web has always been about fun and playfulness. And I start seeing that more with WordPress, and I see it when other people learn WordPress. And that's just so interesting to me, how the architecture, the building itself seems to bring out this freedom and openness. I remember the first time I built in a LMS, how kind of constrained I felt. And again, I don't mind it. You can do great learning things in an LMS, but it just felt so different. There were so many more boundaries.
That's a really interesting point, Lucas, because I do have fun with my WordPress sites, and I don't have fun in my LMS. And I'm not sure why exactly, but Jim has just joined us.
Hi.
Hey, Jim. Welcome.
Well, hi. Glad to be here.
I'm Christina.
I wish I could have done more during the last 3 weeks.
Eh.
But,
we do what we can.
Keep insisting that I do stuff for work.
Darn them. So I'm Christina, and I've been one of the facilitators. I also teach philosophy at University of British Columbia, and maybe we can just quickly introduce ourselves, and then you can introduce yourself, Jim. So Rie?
Yeah, so I'm Rie. I'm an educational resources developer, and I've been handling with the Gravity form on the Teaching with WordPress site. So I set up the site, and I did I also built up the Gravity forms for registration and join us, and the assignment page.
Yeah, she basically did most of that site. So
I was going to jump in there and say the same thing.
yeah. So Lucas?
Yeah, I'm Lucas Wright. I'm a learning technology specialist at CTLT, and I've been facilitating some of this course and helped develop it with Christina and Rie, but again, Rie did such incredible work. Sorry to single you out there, Rie.
Thank you.
And I'm J.R. Dingwall. I'm an instructional designer at the University of Alberta. I've mostly been peripheral to the Teaching with WordPress seminar course. But I clued into it just through other work that I've done with Christina. So it's been really cool to kind of watch what's going on.
Jim, can you introduce yourself quickly?
Let me just switch over and see if this headphone works.
We can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Jim Luke. The day job is I'm professor of economics at Lansing Community College in the middle of Michigan, for those of you familiar with the state of Michigan. And as I've posted, I've been teaching with WordPress. I teach a lot online. About 80% of my load is online, and I've been doing it through WordPress, actually a mixture of WordPress and LMSs since 2009 or so, 2010. And the sideline, that's the day job, but the sideline is I have this kind of quiet nonprofit that I've helped organize because we're just in of trying to put together networks of faculty across higher ed institutions to basically come up with technology and support for them. And WordPress is one of the first areas we're doing it. I'm supporting a bunch of folks both at Lansing Community College through that, and the organization's called Malartu. And now we've added the folks in early childhood education at Rio Salado College in Phoenix. So that's what I do.
So is this I'm trying to understand the organization. Is it something that anybody can go get help from, or how does it work exactly?
Well, I have to be slightly cautious because yes, that's the plan.
Oops, did we?
Trying to. It's a combination of. The way I look at it is. As most of us that have been playing around with WordPress know, it's relatively easy if you're in the 1 to 2% of faculty who can find their ways around servers and websites and stuff like that. It's not if you're in the other 90-95%. Needs a lot of support, and so we're looking at how to make that easier. We're also looking at, for example, right now what we're working on with Rio Salado is basically kind of put together a managed WordPress hosting situation where we've opened an account, or we're opening an account for them with Reclaim Hosting, and we're going to manage the account and then do some consulting with them and help them set up several blogs that they're going to use initially for internal faculty development. And then they're going to expand into doing blogs for each faculty member, because they're one of these outfits that, and there's a lot of schools like this. I know UBC is not one. There's a lot of schools out there where faculty have to teach a course in the box. You know, they're just kind of given, oh, here's the course. It's been developed for you. Just teach it. And I've always hated that. And I fight it, but the biggest problem with that is what I'm hearing is the faculty find that the students don't get engaged because they don't feel like they're talking to a real person, and it's cumbersome. So we're looking at how to add, say, WordPress blogs as a way to supplement that, so that students come to know the faculty as, oh, this is a real person. This is a person that's knowledgeable in the field, has a voice, has an identity, and that where the faculty member's passion can come out. So we're hoping. My grand vision is that maybe if you're familiar with WordPress.org and how there's a whole community and ecosystem, I'm kind of picturing kind of a subset that's oriented just towards faculty across higher ed. So where we can start sharing things like themes that we've worked out that work pretty well for our applications, other stuff, because I can actually I know it all sounds kind of vague and fuzzy.
That's how it has to start.
Yeah, and I have the disadvantage or advantage, depending on how you look at it. Before I started teaching, or got back into teaching full time about 15 years ago, I spent a lot of time as a business strategy and technology consultant. So I am not really a coder by habit. I can find my way around a little bit of PHP or other code with great difficulty and a whole lot of Google searching. But I stay away from it. What I am good at, because I did it for 20 years in corporate world, is conceive the architecture of a large system and try to figure out, oh, well, how can we organize this thing so that it can solve a bunch of problems? And that's what's been driving me nuts when I teach, because there's a lot of money goes into higher ed technology, and there's really not much that goes into making it easier for faculty to do what they need to do. So that's what I'm doing. I had hoped to have more of it ready by June, but probably later. The website for this organization, Malartu, MALARTU.org, is undergoing an overhaul. There's not a lot of explanation there. Going to do a major redesign in the next few weeks, and hopefully put out some more ideas about roadmap, where we're going to go and how folks can get involved. And so. A long-winded introduction.
No, that sounds really interesting and very useful, and kind of an extension of, the sorts of things we were thinking about, right, in our course. What strikes me is that in our course, and this was by design, we did not focus so much on the nitty-gritty of how to, do X, Y, and Z. I mean, we had links to a lot of resources to do that. It was more about pedagogical choices and design choices, and sort of what tools you might use to fulfill whatever goals you have for your course. But it also strikes me that may have made it difficult for anybody who was entirely new to WordPress, because that wasn't our main focus, and that sort of support is needed. And we're lucky that we have it on UBC. You can just go to the drop-in, or you can, ask the support email, whatever, and they help you. But not everybody has that.
Yeah. I am really, really jealous of you folks. If nothing else, you've got a group there where you have colleagues that share the same interest, and you can work with them. It's tough in community colleges in the U.S. And in the U.S. That's about 1/2 of all students across the country, and we don't generally have that much resources. LCC is a fairly large school. We're not one of the largest, and it's just tough. Most schools, you just don't get much support for something that's outside the standard LMS. There's just not that much interest. We've got a group of kind of small group forming at LCC of kind of off the reservation e-learning folks that are doing our own thing. And for a while, like my WordPress stuff was just, I almost had to hide it. Our IT support and others just didn't want to hear anything about it. But now it's starting to come along. But the resources are just not there.
One thing I'm interested in as someone who supports faculty using technology quite a bit, as well as teaching and learning, is people who bring broad enough understanding of different technologies and teaching and learning all to the same table, so that the same support structure who's supporting the LMS is also supporting WordPress, and thinking about them both as things that can work together, work separately, both tools that can be used. I'm seeing a little bit more of that kind of broadening, but I hope that there's lots of learning designers and instructional designers and faculty support who can have broad enough conversations to kind of scale the number of tools that we think about and support.
I agree. I think that would be a fantastic idea. Excuse me. I had a conversation a couple months ago with our provost about some of these kinds of issues, and one of the things we kind of run into, and I've heard this from a lot of other, a lot of community colleges and some other small teaching-oriented schools, very small, is I'm wondering if folks don't do a disservice by calling themselves instructional designers, and here's why. I prefer the term instructional technologists, and the reason is because what I find is that administrators, the folks that don't know the technology and don't know the pedagogy, all they know is we're supposed to have online learning, and they just want the straightest path to that. They tend to there's a group of instructional designers, and they tend to get into a path of, well, all we need to do is find the LMS and hire these people to design these courses for that LMS. And I guess that's kind of like the dark instructional designers, and I much prefer the light instructional designers, the ones like you just described, that me as a professor, here's other things we can do. Here's a bunch of different ways to support it, and that's kind of why I like the instructional technology part.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess that makes me think that because I've never thought about the nomenclature before, but it makes me think that I'm just there to teach what somebody else has designed. Like they're going to design it, and then I just teach it. I mean, I know that's not actually what happens. Well, at least not in my experience, but just the word could. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. Is that's not the way it works. Mm-hmm. But there's this language and this that gets buzzed around, and the folks that write the checks and or rather decide the budgets and don't know any better fall into it's a case of the metaphor starts driving things. And so, they fall into this trap of thinking, oh, well, you need an instructional designer, and they can design how the learning happens, and somehow that's separate from having a content expert. And, I always felt like I'm subject matter expert, but I want somebody to work with me to help me learn how to teach better. And bring more tools to me and show me how to use tools, and let's do this together. And I'm not thinking, not this strict division of labor.
Interesting. I'm actually a learning technology specialist, and I'm running into another issue with the nomenclature. Is to me that's defined too much around the technology, when what we're really doing is having a conversation about teaching. And the technology is a big part of it, but really at the core of it, it's how does one support someone else thinking about, talking about, and doing their teaching online, offline. It's hard to separate that as well. So that's my only kind of issue with the whole technologist piece, is what does that mean?
Yeah.
This is actually a really timely conversation because in a lot of my other news feeds, I keep seeing, instructional design needs a new name,
Oh,
or,
really?
what
Oh,
does the
really?
instructional designer do? And it's actually a big buzz. And I know that, Christina, you might remember more, but one of the people we met at ET4 Online was a digital pedagogy mentor or coach or some such thing.
I don't
Um,
remember who that was.
and so kind of the role there was to focus more on on the teaching and learning part and grabbing all those different tools or approaches, regardless, rather than creating, say, a course pack and then handing that off to an instructor.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's what we were trying to do with teaching with WordPress in I can't remember which week it was, but I think maybe week 2 where we said, come up with 1 or 2 goals you have for either your whole course or for a section of your course, and so you start with your goals, and then try to brainstorm how you might do those goals in WordPress. Now, that of course requires that you know enough about WordPress to answer that question, right? But the idea was, you start with what you want to do, and then we bring the technology to that and see how that might work. And one of the things I really loved about this course was, even if people didn't know how to answer that question themselves, they could just ask, like, how might I do this? And we had a lot of people who were pretty well versed in WordPress, which was really helpful because then they just came in and said, well, try this. Or I got a number of comments on my blog post saying, well, I've tried it this way and that works pretty well, and something I'd never considered before, So it was really what we had hoped for, which was people helping to answer each other's questions, and that was really great.
Yeah. So along the lines of something that came up during the course, a few people were talking about word camps.
Yeah, Rie had signed up for one, and I said I had never heard of a WordCamp, and then I looked it up, and
I've never heard of it until just now.
yeah, I hadn't either.
Yeah, it's actually a really good conference because it's I think for Vancouver it's opening in August, but I know it's everywhere in the world. So there's some in Montreal and some in other province and some in USA. So it's all the world, and the conference price is really affordable. I registered for the early bird ticket, and then it was only about $20.
It's
And
the
it comes
cheapest
with lunch.
conference I've ever seen.
Yeah, it comes with lunch too.
It's one day. That's the Vancouver one. It might be longer in other places, but
Yeah.
Rie, have you been to one before?
No, actually, this year will be the first time I'll be going. But I heard this year's WordCamp will be focused on WordPress in general, as opposed to previous year it was more developer focused. So I think this year's conference will be more relevant to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was actually kind of surprised because I thought everybody had heard of WordCamps.
It's still pretty new to WordPress, actually.
And so I've been to a bunch. I've probably been over the years about a dozen of them. Chicago, Miami. I was just at Miami about 3 weeks ago, and I've spoken at a couple of small ones here in Michigan at Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor. So I've got some folks in that community, and yes, they are really, really excellent conferences. You can learn a lot about WordPress, and they are incredibly affordable. Yes, $20 to $30 is $40 will get you one of the biggest conferences for 2 days, 2 or 3. I think I paid $45 for 3 days in Miami, and they are really neat experiences because they're very friendly, they're very open, people are accessible. And a lot of people, I think most of you probably are aware of Automatic, the company that runs WordPress.com. Automaticians have it in their job description to just go to WordCamps, period. Participate, just attend. So it's been really neat. I know of no other software or community or something like that. For example, last year in Chicago, I got a chance with 10 minutes in the hallway, one-on-one with Andrew Nason, who's the lead developer, one of the lead developers on all of WordPress. I mean, you get that kind of contact and stuff like that. So having praised it like that,
Where's the butt?
there's a but, yes. I had just had a couple when I was in Miami an idea, and I've had a frustration at a lot of WordCamps because generally there's about 2 or 3 tracks of sessions, and WordCamps are all sanctioned by the National WordCamp by the WordPress Foundation, and they give you all kinds of support apparently to organize it, but the tracks are usually, there's a track of sessions for developers, which can loosely be translated as people who write code, especially plugins type stuff, or code the functioning of sites. There's usually a track for designers, which gets real theme oriented, and maybe a track for either newbies to WordPress or just kind of general, how do you make a business out of serving the WordPress community. And I've been kind of frustrated because at a lot of WordCamps, the general large WordPress community is very business e-commerce oriented, which makes sense. Most of the developers that are out there making a living doing WordPress stuff and website designers are working for business, doing sites for businesses and e-commerce and things. And sometimes it's a little harder to get sessions where, to me, I wanted to meet up with more folks in education, or that we're doing, we're teaching with it, or maybe even, just nonprofit organizations. Mm-hmm. So when I was sitting in one session in Miami, I was sharing my frustration with a friend, and they said, "Well, talk to the WordPress Foundation." So I contacted them. And I said, is it possible to have a vertical WordCamp? Because most WordCamps are regional. And they said, yes. They said, you could have a WordCamp higher ed. They said, the challenge is, and there aren't very many like vertical WordCamps, the challenge is, of course, is because then everybody's got bigger travel. You're pulling from a much larger area. So anyway, I've just been intrigued with that. The thought they gave some requirements as to what they would think they would need to reasonable prospect. So I was just float that idea out there. I wonder if this would have to be like a year and a half down the road probably. If maybe there's room to have a WordCamp higher ed conference.
That's a neat idea. It'd be interesting too is to somehow link it to a course like this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, that would be awesome.
And WordCamp becomes almost like a meetup for it.
Yeah.
How do they keep the cost so low? Because that's one thing that's really attractive. And if people have to travel far away, they have to pay for the cost of travel. But how do they keep the cost so low for the actual conference itself? That's kind of amazing to me because I'm used to paying hundreds of dollars for a conference, and that's. That would be fantastic if we could do that.
Well, in general, go away.
Go away.
In general, and I have a few friends that have helped to organize a WordCamp, but I've not been directly involved in the stuff. My understanding is you get a lot of support from the WordPress Foundation in terms of what to do and how to do it, and also contacts. And then generally, there's quite a bit of sponsorship. I know a lot of hosting companies sponsor these things. If I were into collecting swag, I would be able to tell you because they usually generate a lot of swag. But I don't keep the stuff. But a lot, hosting companies, other companies support it and donate. Oftentimes, the location and the facilities will be donated. So, like the foundation actually said, if you wanted to do a higher ed WordCamp, probably the thing to do would be find a university that was willing to let you use the facilities. And then most of the labor is all done by volunteers. So that takes, and then of course all the speakers, the speakers are all volunteer. They all do it for free. And you can get some pretty good named speakers, national, but international even, particularly folks from the WordPress community at least. So I think that's how they all do it, but I haven't actually seen all the numbers, so I don't know how it all runs.
Yeah. Cool idea. So one of the other things we wanted to ask people was thoughts on the course, because we're hoping to do it again, and
yay!
You know, any suggestions, any comments, any thoughts on what we might do differently or.
I think right out of the gate, the 4 weeks was about bang on what most people I see are able to afford for this kind of activity, especially in higher ed. So when I first saw the 4 week time frame, I thought, okay, there's something where I can probably pay more attention to this than, say, if I signed up for a MOOC that's supposed to be 8 weeks or something. And then even just the module size, so like your schedule and what goes on in each of those weeks, I thought the size was pretty appropriate just to get people's feet wet.
Yeah, we really thought about the length carefully and decided, 4 weeks is probably max. But at the same time, it's not really enough time to completely dig into, what you need to dig into to do this well, but I think it's a good start.
I guess I just kind of wonder about the timing of it. I run other events and they're kind of right at the start of July, and that's sometimes a difficult time for people, so I'm not sure what the best time would be for something like this, if anybody else has thoughts.
I think for us, it was partly like, when could we actually get this thing done and planned? Yeah. And for me, it was, I can't possibly do this while I'm teaching. So, like, it had to be when I'm not teaching anymore.
Yeah.
That was a consideration just because of me, but. And it turns out I was teaching, so that didn't even matter. But I was teaching one summer course as opposed to my full load, so it's a whole different situation.
I think the 4 week is on, like you said. As far as timing's concerned, the big thing is you can't start it. You can't start it probably around the 1st of September, because that's generally going to be people's beginning of a semester. You don't want to be around the beginning of a semester or the very end. So hopefully something that looks like it's kind of the middle of a term for most folks, because I think most faculty would be scared away of, oh, I can't deal with it at that time. I was thinking, and maybe if you repeat it, maybe there's a way I can, I don't know, help put something together too. It would be nice if there were more resources up front in case someone signed up, for somebody who signed up who, say, didn't even know what WordPress really was. They're maybe just kind of signing up to take it because my colleague said, you really need to learn about this. Or they've always been curious, they've heard about WordPress, or they got some crazy colleague like Luke that's doing this crazy stuff down the hall, and they want to start getting their feet wet. And I liked the emphasis throughout most of the course about why we're doing it and the implications of it. But we probably need something a little bit more to help bring noobs up to speed quicker.
I was considering a boot camp, because I've done this in other open online courses where before the course actually starts, you have a week or something, for those who are completely new to help them like get set up with their site and learn the basics and something like that. So the people who already know wouldn't start at that point, but the people who need extra help would.
Oh, that would be a great. Yeah, I think that would be the way to do it. That'd be a neat idea. So it'd be kind of like 4 weeks or 5 weeks with the boot camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that in DS 106, which is a digital storytelling course, and you have to get a lot of stuff set up before you can actually participate in the course, because you got to set up your YouTube account, your SoundCloud account, you got to learn how to use a couple of tools. And so in fact I think they often have a 2-week boot camp. I'm not sure though.
DS 106 has been on my list for 2 years. That I want to do that, but now I think it just fell further.
Yeah. It's actually, I shouldn't scare you off. It's actually not that hard. I mean, one of the things you need to set up is a blog. You've already got that, right? So.
Yeah. Well, actually, my problem is I have too many of them.
I don't know, Lucas, Rie, if you have any thoughts about next time.
Yeah, and I think the fundamentals piece is a good one. I love that idea of a boot camp. I think that would help a lot. We were also wondering, even at UBC, kind of having some parallel face-to-face sessions to deal with some of that.
That's right.
It would be interesting to have some satellite face-to-face sessions in a few different places just to accommodate some of those folks, but the camping would work. I really like the synchronous side to this course as well, kind of doing these chats and meetups. I think that really kind of adds a whole element to me. It'd be neat to have more folks coming in from different areas and sharing what they're doing in Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to just sort of schedule a time, who knows if it works for anybody, so maybe people could do their own.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, you were about to say something?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, the Google Hangouts is good at piece in adding that in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd forgotten we had talked about, because one of the things is that we're running this through UBC, and a lot of the people working on it are working for UBC, that if there was a way to integrate it more into the faculty at our institution, and we might be able to do that by having face-to-face 1 or 2 sessions parallel to the course here. But I hadn't thought about, Lucas, if you could find people who might be able to organize something at 1 or 2 other sites as well.
Yes,
for face-to-face sessions.
University of Alberta.
Yeah, that's interesting.
If you were doing it, say, in the middle of fall, I might be able to help organize something in Michigan at LCC, because we've got a group of faculty we're now starting to get some buzz among faculty about WordPress, because we have a strange setup. We have an e-learning department, which really is effectively just the desire to learn administration department, and then we have separately a Center for Teaching Excellence, which has a much broader mission than just online. And e-learn and technologies, it's all kinds of stuff pedagogy related. And we got a new director of the CTE lab about a year ago, a faculty member, Leslie Johnson, who's been very, very active online for about a decade, and last year crossed over, little Freudian slip there, and started using some WordPress in her composition class. She still teaches 1 class, but she's now running the CTE, and she's a big enthusiast for this. So, yeah, come this fall, if you decide to do it somewhere in that time frame, we might be able to do a satellite boot camp as well.
Interesting.
And one thing we tried this year that I think is a good idea too is Richard Tape, who works for our Teaching and Learning Center and in Learning Technology, is part of a group. Rie is also part of a group that runs drop-ins every Thursday, I think it is, for WordPress. And so what we had Richard just be on a Hangout during that time. So, I mean, he's in the room, I think, for also the other drop-ins, but I don't know how it worked because I wasn't there. But somehow, you know, he's devoted to the Hangout, and there's other people for the face-to-face people. But it's during the same time that he would have been there for the drop-in anyway, and he just opened it up to anybody from the course. So, and I know at least one person joined. I don't know how many other. So I think that was a cool idea, and you know, I don't know if the timing was off. We had to do it at the same time as a normal drop-in. So, but if we could do that again, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that would really enrich some of these face-to-face experiences we're talking about as well, to have people kind of coming from all over to attend them virtually at the same time as they're face-to-face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any other thoughts anybody wants to share.
Well, I got a couple of questions for you folks at UBC. Does the university host and run your WordPress installs?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like one big multi-site install, do you know, and you just request,
Yes.
hey, I want a blog for this or that?
So the UBC's been running WordPress now for probably going 6-7 years back now, and they've installed multi-user. So they have a multi-user system. And then they have, I don't know how this is set up on the servers, but we have 2 different instances running. One is called the CMS, and that's used for, it's kind of blurring now, but originally it was used for a lot of departmental websites. Now some people are doing teaching and learning with it as well. And then
got
the
more
others,
plugins.
Yeah, there's quite a few plugins, and they use a really robust theme that kind of gives the UBC common look and feel to the site. And then the other side is UBC Blogs, which is multi-sites, multi-user. And last time I checked, there were upwards of 30,000 teaching and learning blogs on there.
Wow.
So that's going to be everything from individual e-portfolios to course blogs, etc. And then the other
blogs
is we now have an LTI link between blogs and the Blackboard Learning Management System. So people can create a Blackboard shell and actually open up a course blog inside that shell and have the student information come over.
Which is nice
that's awesome.
It's nice from my perspective, because even though I don't hardly use the LMS, I can actually register all my students into my WordPress site through the LMS now. Like it goes boom. Whereas it was a bit more of a pain to get them into the WordPress site before.
Yeah, that's one of the pains I have is, you know, that every semester you have to, you know, do the whole save the class list as, you know, CSV or something like that and move over. And, you know, I do have a plugin that helps add users as in bulk, but, you know, it's a pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a shout out to the developers. It's an incredible system at UBC. They've put a lot of work into it and really grown it into something that's just amazing to work with. And the number of different uses of it is just growing and growing.
Well, there's an organization called Highedweb that has a lot of WordPress to it, but a lot of users that do WordPress. But in most schools, those are it's folks that are using WordPress for like department websites and the college website and the school website, you know, and all that stuff, not the teaching and learning.
Mm.
Yeah, and again, sorry, the people, just to name them, is Novak and Richard Tate right now, and David Brabins.
Novak Rojic? I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
I'm sorry, David. So they're the ones doing this wonderful work, along with quite a few other developers. But.
Yeah, I can't believe how lucky we are, honestly.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm. You can't tell, but I'm drooling.
Well, part of the issue is, you know, I could just, if I were not in BC, I could just have a course site on Reclaim Hosting.
Right.
but because of BC law, I can't require students to join a site or post anything that's identifying information outside of Canadian servers. So it's actually, I think maybe partly because of that, we've got a, we've managed to do it in-house on our own servers because of this privacy law. Which actually, it's great, but at the same time, it limits me in what else I can do. Like, there's certain tools I can't easily use. There's somebody had suggested recently using Google Forms for something. I'm like, no, I can't do that. It's like,
Even if it's Google Forms, Google.ca?
Yeah, because the servers are not in Canada.
Okay, because the servers aren't. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if I just want to do anonymous stuff, that's fine. But if there's any identifying information, I can't require that they do it. They have to agree in writing that they are okay with this, and it's just a major pain in the tuchus.
Well, I think what we got to do is we got to lean on Jim Broom and Tim Owens to get a satellite data center north of the border.
Yeah, it's probably more expensive though. Everything's more expensive in Canada.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of a step Canadian. My son is a permanent resident and graduate of Western Ontario.
Oh, cool.
And if they ever finish processing the paperwork, he'll probably be a citizen. But he's working in Calgary right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I need to go. I have to drop my son off someplace. He doesn't have school today. Yesterday was the last day of school, so I'm kind of, in charge of the kid today.
And before I run, I just wanted to say thanks so much for participating, everyone, either as co-facilitator, as participant. I mean, everyone kind of became instructors to each other, and it was great to learn with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I'm going to have to go too. I want to say thanks to all of you. It was great to meet you, and the Hangout part's neat because you get to see and put, faces to this.
Exactly.
And thanks to everybody for running it.
And thanks, Jim, for doing that video for the course. That was really excellent and gave me a lot of things to think about. So we'll keep that for the course next time.
I've been thinking about doing it for a long time, but it was the kick in the butt that I needed.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Goodbye.
All right.
Good, Jim.
Bye-bye.
I think, Lucas, maybe it's you you got some weird noise coming through.
Oh, really? Sorry about that. I'm about to leave, so...
Okay. All right. See you. All right, JR, thanks for coming.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for putting on this, just all of the live sessions and the teaching with WordPress stuff. I know you and I are probably going to talk about it for a long time yet, so...
Because we know each other in other senses, other projects. All right. Well,
Okay.
I'm going to head out.
See ya.
Bye.